decided to find myself a testing ground. So after a friend warmly recommended this place called Vattakanal in Dindigul district of Tamil Nadu, I found myself safely nestled away in its arms in August of 2017. Known for its magic, Vattakanal surely had its charm. The trees here stood wise and tall, there was versatile flora all over, and occasionally you could even spot a wild bison grazing on moist grass. So I spent the next 4 days climbing the hills, sitting by the edge of the Dolphin's Nose and Echo Rock, and even ended up in surrounding remote villages. I was made clear of one rule, however, by my landlady the minute I had arrived there, which was to return before sunset every single day to my cottage. Now my cottage was atop this beautiful hill because I wanted the best view and I wasn't going to compromise on it. So on my last day, I realized that I had gained a lot of skills along my journey. I had learned how to tackle the beaches. I had also learned how to light up my own firewood and not to rely on electricity. However, there was one thing that I had yet to wait for. So I decided to go to this farming village located about 35 kilometers away from where I was, called Mannavanura. So I packed my travel essentials and I trekked 7 kilometers to Kodaikanal, boarded a bus to go to Mannavanura. After taking in its widespread beauty, trust me guys, it's beautiful all over till as far as the horizon goes. After taking all of that in, I had to board my last bus back to Kodaikanal that evening at 4 p.m. So I made my way to the bus stand, but I realized that I had had no mobile network since morning, which meant that my sister-in-law back at home could not track me on GPS. So I found myself a shop, a local grocery store, where I asked if I could borrow a landline phone. I made a call to my mother and I told her that I would indeed, like all other days, make it back safely by 6:30 p.m. at my cottage. On my way back, however, I realized that we had encountered a lot of traffic and I was already running late. So I thought to myself that I shouldn't perhaps trek those 7 kilometers to Vattakanal and take a cab back instead. I approached a lot of cab drivers in the area, but all of them, to my surprise, refused to set me on my way. They all said that there was this annual feast happening at a church that I had passed in the morning on my way. But because of this feast, there was traffic all over and I wouldn't be able to make it in time. So one cab driver suggested to me that I should in fact trek those 7 kilometers way back to Vattakanal. A tired and dizzy traveler had just proceeded to accept this as her best bet to get back. So as I went on my way, the cab driver called out to me once again. I looked at him and went. So he asked me if I was carrying a torch with me. This was my moment that I had been waiting for. I always carry a torch with me, so like a pro traveler, I took it out and handed it over to him. He inspected it and then said this to me. If you are to encounter a bison on your way, then just show this light straight to its eye and it should walk away. After this encouraging conversation, I set my way to my route because I had no time to spare. It was already 6:30 p.m. in the evening and areas surrounded by dense forest get dark really quick. As I went ahead, I passed this church which had beautiful celebrations going on. I could hear the chants flowing through the air. As much as I wanted to stay back and enjoy the celebrations, I had no time to spare. Just ahead of this church lay a small track of about 200 meters or so. Now this track, although one of the most picturesque during the day, looked nothing short of a horror movie scene at night. It looked like this black hole that I was scared of stepping into. To my right lay a patch of dense forest with broken fences, and to my left I could hear the ripples and echoes of the water streaming down from this waterfall close by. I spoke to myself, trembled in fear, but I proceeded to step into this patch. My torch at this point that I had been counting on for so long had almost rendered pointless because I had close to no visibility even with it. I must be about 40 or 50 meters in when I suddenly heard a grunt. I froze. I didn't know what to do. And in the next second, I was panic struck. I started pointing my torch in all directions trying to find out the origin of this sound. And about 100 meters ahead of me, I saw this black, beady eye staring right back at me through the light of that torch. I had remembered the cab driver's advice, and I stood there pointing my torch straight to its eye for what felt like a few minutes, but were perhaps maybe just merely seconds. And I slowly decided backing away because there was no way I wanted to be shredded down by this beast in an instant. His eye looked like the center of this black hole that I was not ready to get sucked into. So once out of the patch, I was petrified, but it still wasn't the end of my worries. I still had to find my way back home to my cottage and pack my bags to leave the next day. So with manageable phone network, I gave my sister-in-law a call. I told her my situation and proceeded to go ahead towards the church that I had wanted to rest at anyway. This church was full of people. There was fervor and excitement all over. I found myself a place to charge my phone and grabbed a seat. I also at the same time reached out to a constable who was taking care of security at the church and asked him to help me find a family that I could travel back to Vattakanal with. He, however, suggested that this was an unsafe idea and it would be best for a lone girl traveling late at night to spend the night at the church and go back to her cottage the next morning. I was very scared of this idea because I had only left in the morning with my essentials, which did not include warm layers of clothes to survive the night in an open church. The temperatures had dropped a lot by now, and it was also drizzling. As I sat there looking worried, I also tried to make a call to my landlady. She said this to me. I asked her if her son could come and pick me up, to which she said, "Amma, I'm sorry, we're all asleep right now," and she cut the call. I didn't know what to do next, so I spent my time looking worried, trying to find options, and also at the same time mentally preparing myself to spend the night at this church. Soon after, a young boy approached me with his mother. He asked me why I was looking so worried, huddled up in a corner like that. So I told him my situation. As he translated it to his mother, she thought that it was perhaps too risky a situation and her son shouldn't give me that lift back home. They both advised me against it and said that yes, it would indeed be the best if I stayed the night at the church. After they left, I had truly run out of my options. I was trying to look for food and buckling up, trying to stay as warm as I possibly could. Soon after though, he came back, alone this time, and said to me that he was willing to drop me back, but he would come back an hour later. His plan was to go drop his mother back home and then come back on his motorcycle, come pick me up from the church and then drop me to Vattakanal. I didn't know what to make of it. He was a stranger after all, but I was desperate to get help. I waited and surely he did return after an hour. So with hesitance and with fear, I asked him if I could click a picture of his, send it back home to my sister-in-law, for safety reasons, of course. And he said, "No, I don't look good at all." My heart stopped as my pupils dilated in that moment. He had already handed me out his Aadhaar card by then. So his KYC was all in place. I clicked pictures of his identity card, which had his address and his picture on it, and I sent them back, hopped onto his bike, and set on my way ahead. On our ride back, we spoke of how our backgrounds were inspiring us to do what we wanted to do in the future, what I was doing there in a place so small all by myself. He said this to me. He told me that his friends were scared for his life, dropping a stranger like that in an area so remote. But he believed that I could also be somebody's sister, somebody's daughter, and perhaps somebody's mother in the future. And he wouldn't want to see his mother in that position, which is why he was helping me go back to home. It was easy to say that he was a humble guy with good intentions. Once in Vattakanal, I decided to look for open cafes around the road because my cottage, like I said, was atop that hill, which meant another trek for about upward hill trek for about 200 meters, and I had no energy left in me by then. He, however, thought that this was not a very safe option and he really wanted to ensure I had good accommodation for the night. So he decided to accompany me on that trek. Slowly, in the light of my torch, a moist grass and wet soil, we set on our way, climbing upwards slowly and steadily. Halfway through, we realized that it was already 10:40 p.m. and that he would have a tough time getting back safely to the church and then to his mother. So I sent my thanks to him with all my heart. He smiled, and then his silhouette slowly disappeared into the dark like that of a friendly ghost. I gathered the courage, proceeded on to complete those final 100 meters of trek, and reached my cottage safely at last. Traveling has so many experiences to offer to us. It has teachings waiting in every nook and corner. All you have to do is look. Right from Shubhra, the girl who decided to lend me her landline phone to make a call back, to Lijul, somebody, a stranger who went against the odds and decided to drop me back home at Vattakanal. I had seen kindness, I had seen mercy. Also, at the same time, I realized that the person that I had been spending all my evening with, my landlady, had just decided to shut me off. It was very interesting how in one evening I saw this huge range of human behavior and emotions. All of these experiences create a very lasting and vivid impact in my life. And this was me acknowledging that gratefully.